Okay, so today is our last day of review for the test, which is Tuesday. It's going to cover all of chapter 1, and it's going to have 15 questions. So anything that we have covered, either in the warm-ups, the notes, the homeworks, the reviews, anything that we cover or talk about in class is fair game for questions on the test. Just keep in mind that the reviews that I give you for a test don't necessarily look exactly like the test. So just because something's not on the review, if we did it in homework, it could show up as a test question. So 15 questions. Of those 15, you are going to get some sometimes, always, or never questions. So my advice to you is on any of the questions, especially the sometimes, always, or nevers, let's say you have no clue of what to pick, you got 1/3 of a chance of getting it right. Put one of those words in there, sometimes, always, or never. Anytime you're taking a test, and this goes for any class, if you come to a question that you just don't know how to do, skip it and keep going. You don't want to sit there and waste time trying to answer a question that you have no clue to do, and then maybe as you go through the test, maybe you'll read something and it'll help you remember what to do for that other question. So just keep in mind that I'm going to give you 45 minutes for the 15 questions. That'll give me the 5 minutes to pass it out and collect it. So 45 minutes for 15 questions. Some of them are super fast. You might just be identifying an angle or something like that. And then other questions are going to take a little bit more time because you're either going to have to do the distance formula or the midpoint formula or even set up an algebraic equation in order to solve it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through this review here. If you looked in the modules, I didn't put it in the assignment, but the solution file for this is in modules. And if you go down to the bottom of the chapter 1 module, you're going to see a file that says it's a solution file. So if you look in modules, I already have the answers posted, and they're going to look like, so I can come back here now. So here it says that points A, R, and B are collinear. So A is here, R is here, B is here. I can't turn a corner. That is not considered collinear. Collinear would have meant ART. So this one is false. The next one is stating that line BW, and it's got the appropriate symbol on top of these letters, and then line AT, these are both lines. This is true. They named it correctly with the picture of the line on top, and they have arrows on the ends there. The next one, this is making sure you understand what an opposite ray is. So BR is right here, going in this direction, and then RT is here, going in this direction. Remember, opposite rays share the same endpoint, but they point in opposite directions. So they got to form a line. So this would be false. The opposite rays that would be in the figure here, you could have named RT along with RA. So RT and RA, these are both opposite rays. Notice the first letter in each is the same because that's their endpoint. And then the last one, it says that plane D could be also named as ART. Well, by definition, a plane is defined or named by 3 non-collinear points, so this one would be false. The 3 points that you use to name that plane cannot be on the same line. You could have named this as ARB or ATB, Two of the points could be on the same line, but the third one has to be off of it. Okay, and then you would also remember to write the word plane in front. So plane, because I don't know if you're just listing the 3 points or describing the plane. Now, 10 and 11, again, the question on the test, I will provide a graph for you. The ordered pairs will fit on the graph. You will not get a trapezoid, so you will not have to graph a trapezoid. So let me go to where it's graphed. So for number 12, what we need to do here is figure out all these missing angles from the diagram. So for here, notice we've got a little box indicating that this is a right angle. So to find the measure of this angle here, DFE, which is the first one they're looking for, all we need to do is 90 minus 27, and I get 63 degrees. Then if I was told that this is a straight angle, AFE, and if this side is 90, then I know this side is 90 as well, because 90 plus 90 is 180. So to find the next angle, the BFC, I'm again going to do 90, this time minus 39. Change that, and I get 51 degrees. And then the last one that they want me to find is from B to F to E, right here. So I can get away with using my angle addition, and I can add the 51 plus the 27 plus the 63, and that'll give me the total. Also realize that these two are complements, they're 90. So really all I have to do is 51 plus 90, and I get 141. Now, on the test, be able to name some complementary angles in this picture, or some supplementary, or some adjacent. So in this picture, if I ask you to give me two angles that are complements, you could name these two that are right here, this one with this one, and again, you're going to name it with 3 letters. So you could name this one as angle CFD and angle DFE. These are complements. They're also adjacent. So if they ask you to name a pair of adjacent, remember adjacent are right next to each other and they share a side. Now, if it said name 2 supplementary angles, and let's say they got a bunch of angles here like this, and let's say this one's XYZ, and let's say this one's ABC, and we'll say this one's DEF. So if it says from these 3 angles that are drawn, which 2 are supplements, here's where you need to know that supplementary angles add up to be 180. So you would name this one and this one. So you would say DEF and ABC are the supplements. If from this same group they said find the complements, then these 2 would have been the complements. So if I give you a bunch of random angles, whether they're attached or not, you're just looking for the 2 that when you add them, give you 90 to be complements, to be supplements when they equal 180. Then I know in the file that's posted, it did have the answers for 13, 14, and 15, but I did wipe them out. You're not responsible for those. And number 16, though, that's here, it looks like it's really a complicated word problem, but really half of the words there in that paragraph are describing the game. So really the main thing that you needed to read here in order to answer this question is when they started talking about here, the green ball is the midpoint between the red and the Polino, which is the white one. So if this is the midpoint, And the distance between the green and the red is 10. And if this was the midpoint, then I know this distance is also 10. And then the next thing that was important was the distance between yellow and the Polino is 8. So then that's 8. And then now you can see, they say, which one is closer, the green or the yellow? Well, obviously 8 inches is shorter than 10, so the yellow ball is closer. So it looked like it was really a lot of stuff to do here, but it wasn't that bad. So, you know, this is just more practice problems. Again, the test does not look just like this. Go back. It could be anything that we did before. Warm-ups are always a good thing to use to study, as well as notes and homework. So 15 questions. You'll have 45 minutes. Some of the questions are going to be super fast because you're just going to identify something. And then others will take longer because you're going to be setting up an algebraic equation. I know we didn't do as many algebraic equations in this one as we did in the other review. So just be able to focus on that one as well. Most of the questions are more focused towards sections 4, 5, and 6 because we already quizzed on 1, 2, and 3. However, the information, for example, in section 1, you need to know how to name and to write things. So technically it may not be a specific question from section 1.1, but when I describe something like up here, you now know that this angle symbol means angle. So know that most of the test is more focused towards the end, but again, you still need the knowledge from the first couple sections. Test is on paper, so you need to bring a pencil again. When you come in, I will hand you the scratch paper. I'll hand you a test and a piece of scratch paper, so you won't have to worry about grabbing a piece of scratch. I'll give you scratch. And so just have your pencil ready to go. I'll still have the box of pencils on the front table as well as the pencil sharpener. And again, if you feel you need a highlighter or something, you're more than welcome to bring one. I do have colored pencils that I could put out. But again, I wouldn't worry about coloring things if you don't need to. And also keep in mind, sometimes the colored pencils are hard to erase. So, so just be careful with that. So any questions for me? I will have office hours Tuesday morning if you have last minute questions. Also over the long weekend, if you find that you come to something that you don't know how to do, or maybe you just don't understand how they got that answer, you can send me an email. Chances are, if it's not Monday night super late, I will respond to you. But if you're emailing me Monday night, I may or may not get back to you. This is the first page to do some of these problems in the review. All right, so the things that you need to memorize, in addition to the definitions and the postulates we've learned, you also need to memorize the midpoint formula. So if it helps you to write it down a couple times, that might make the memory a little bit more permanent. So this is the formula to calculate a midpoint. So you're going to add the x's and divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. Remember, the answer to this gives you the x of your midpoint ordered pair, and this one gives you the y. So be able to use this formula just like you did on the quiz. The other formula you need to memorize is the distance formula. And this one's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and it's all underneath a square root. Now remember, these x1s and x2s, these are coming from 2 points that you're going to give you, that I'll give you on the test. And again, the little numbers at the bottom are just like labels. So the first one, the x1, y1 is like order pair number 1, and then x2, y2 could be, you could call that order pair number 2. So you need to memorize both of these formulas, be able to calculate a midpoint, also be able to work backwards, given the midpoint and an endpoint, and find the endpoint like you did on the quiz. You'll use the distance formula if I ask you to find perimeter of a shape. For the questions that have order pairs where it's going to ask you to find the perimeter, like for example, number 9 and 10 and 11 here, I'm going to give you a graph so you can plot the order pairs on there. So I will provide the coordinate plane so you can go ahead and graph them yourselves. No true falses. So instead of true false, you're going to get sometimes, always, or nevers. All right, now you might get a question just as simple as numbers 1 and 2 here, where all you have to do to find the length of QS here is just take segment QR, add it to RS, and you get 12 plus 19, and the answer here is 31. So you might get something as simple as that to find it. Or it could be where you're finding, they give you the total, and QS now is the little piece, and then here all you would have to do is subtract 59 minus 47, and that answer would be 12. So you could get questions as simple as that, or they may even involve expressions. So be able to do it both ways, whether it's just numbers on here or algebraic expressions. For 3 and 4, you're going to be calculating the midpoint and the distance of these 2 points. So again, I wrote those formulas at the top, so be able to work with both of those formulas. So I'll just do number 3, even though you already have it all worked out, I'll walk you through it. So for example, for number 3, if I give you a question and ask you to calculate the midpoint, I'm going to go ahead and label my order pairs. I'm going to say A is going to be my first order pair, my x1, y1. B will be my x2, y2. And then I can plug it into the formula. So I'm going to add -4 plus -1. And then I'm going to add -8 plus 4. Now, if you get a fraction and it's improper, I'm okay with you leaving it improper unless it'll simplify to a whole number or an integer. So this one, I do want to see you simplify this to a -2. However, the -5/2, you can leave it that way, or you could make it 2.5, -2.5. So if when you divide by 2, if it'll go in evenly, definitely divide it. If not, you can leave it improper. This one also asked you to calculate the distance. So now I'll use the distance formula using the same 2 order pairs. So here I'm going to do -1, and you have to be very careful with your signs here. I'm doing -1 minus a -4 and 4 minus a -8. So you got to do whatever you were taught with integers, whether it was stay, change, or keep, change, flip. This becomes a -1 plus 4. So then this ends up becoming 3 squared. Here this becomes 4 plus 8. So then this becomes 12 squared. It's still under the radical. I'm going to add after I square, and I get 153. Now, at first glance, you might think, oh no, 153 looks prime to me. However, if you remember those 4th grade divisibility rules again, and this is the one I use a lot, I just quickly take my numbers, 1 plus 5 plus 3. Soon as I see that that number is divisible by 9, I know I've got a perfect square hiding in there, and it's going to be a 9. Because 9 gets divided by 9, and so does 153. So when I divide it by 9, it goes in here once, and then I'll subtract. I think it goes in here. Subtract 6, 63, and 7. Okay, so 9 times 17 is 153. So I can break 153 down. It is not in simplest radical form. So I'm going to break it down into 9 times 17. The 9 breaks into a 3 and a 3. Got a pair of 3's, 3 comes out, and my simplest radical form for the distance or the length of AB is 3 square root 17. Now again, if you thought that this was prime and you stopped here, you're not going to get full credit, you will get partial credit on that one. You're going to solve number 4 the same way. You're going to calculate, they want you to do the distance and the midpoint formula. So if you open up that solution point, so just like you had to do on the quiz, I may give you a midpoint, and this will be my XM, YM. This is going to be my X1, Y1. And then the endpoint I'm looking for is going to be X2, Y2. I'm going to use my midpoint formula, but I'm going to create 2 different equations to solve. So let me come over here to the side. So for this one, for number 5, so again, my midpoint was 1, -1, and then the endpoint they gave me was -3, 2, so X1, Y1. So let's plug it in. So I'm going to do -3 plus X2 divide by 2 equals this 1 of the midpoint. Then for the Y, I'm going to take this Y, add it to Y2, divide by 2, and set it equal to the Y of the midpoint. Now I can solve. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of the fraction. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 here. And then I'm left with -3 plus x sub 2 equals 2. Add 3. So this is the work up here now. And then the x of my endpoint is going to be 5. So far I've found the first part of the order pair. Now I have to find the y of the order pair. Multiply both sides by 2 here as well. 2 plus y sub 2 equals -2. Move this 2 over. And the y of my endpoint is -4. So endpoint F is going to be the order pair 5, -4. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our picture here and decide if it's true or false. Picture here. Then I also did all the work for the distance formulas and describe in file. You can see that I've already worked out the distance in the midpoint. So notice again, I got an improper fraction here for my midpoint. If you want to leave it like that, that's fine. If you changed it to -4.5, that's acceptable as well, or the decimal. And then square root of 49 is prime. I can't break that down, so I would just leave the radical just like that. Pretty good there? All right, number 5. This one is asking for a midpoint. And then I also added in the graph. And so here is number 10. Now I told you you could just do the perimeter and that was it. You did not have to do the area. But if you wanted to practice with it, that was the formula. You should have learned this formula probably in 7th grade. It's usually in 7th grade math, pre-algebra, that they teach it to you. So what we could do here is, since we've graphed the order pairs to find the perimeter, we could have just counted the squares. For this side, PQ is 1, 2, 3, 4, or you could have subtracted the coordinates. And then for PR, we could have also counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or subtracted the coordinates. So this one was 4. And then the same thing for RS. You could have counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or subtracted the coordinates. So far for my perimeter, I've got 4 plus 6 plus 6, so that's 16. Now, any diagonal side in any shape must be done using the distance formula. And that's what I did right here for QS. Once I plugged in this order pair Q and this order pair S into the formula, I got the square root of 40. You must simplify that. I could break it down, and once I broke it down into 4 times 10, and then I broke it into 2 and 2, 2 and 5, found my pair of 2s, the 2 came out. These guys didn't pair back, so I multiplied them back. So then your perimeter, you can't add the 2 radical 10 to the 16, so you just put it side by side, and these would be units. For the area of this, if you decided to do it, this is my B1, this could be my B2 down here, and this 6 is my height. So once I plug that into the formula and I multiplied, I got 30 units squared. Okay, but you will not have a trapezoid on the test. Fair game for this question could be a triangle, a rectangle, or a square. So be able to calculate area and perimeter of those 3 shapes. Number 11, here is my triangle. Notice for this side you could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, for these 2 sides, you had to use the distance formula. I need a height, so I could draw the perpendicular height straight through here. And for this, I could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Height is 5, base is 6. So 1/2 base times height. 1/2 of 6 is 3, times 5 is 15. So 15 units squared. Now, I know I had the answers on what I posted. Actually, you had to do 12. Now, 12, you're just going to do some adding and subtracting to find missing angles. So let me go back to that. So this is posted in the modules, but I'm going to go through. I did that in what's posted. Here is that one diagonal, and then, or KL is the 1. JK I just counted, and then IJ I also had to do it. And then for perimeter, you're going to add the JK, which we counted to be 6, and then KL. Notice the 34. When I try to break it down, it just gives me 2 times 17. Notice they don't pair, so I just multiply them back, and I keep it as the square root of 34. And then I put the other one. It also got the square root of 34. When you add radicals, treat them like variables. Pretend like this is really, I could have a 1 in front. So pretend like you're adding 1x plus 1x, which would give you 2x. So the perimeter here would just be 2 square root 34. And then for the area, if I go back to where I graphed it,